right, so this is gonna be our next episode in our retro pay-per-view review series. This is gonna be WrestleMania 6. Everyone knows this is the Ultimate Challenge.
Definitely.
I'm your host, Mike.
And I'm Frank, and let's get right into it. The card at WrestleMania 6, Skydome in Toronto. This is the first time they went international with WrestleMania. They set an indoor attendance record, 67,678.
Yep.
Of course, everybody who knows two of those guys that were at WrestleMania were two 12-year-old diehard wrestling fans by the names of Edge and Christian.
That's right.
They got their money's worth there with their Hulkamania shirts on. April 1st, 1990. So let's break down some of the celebrities that were at this one because they actually had a few this time around. They didn't do it WrestleMania 5, which I was actually shocked, other than Donald Trump being at ringside again.
Yeah. Maybe because they were in Canada, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had Robert Goulet singing the opening for O Canada. You had Mary Tyler Moore at ringside. Steve Allen messing around with the Bolsheviks. Everybody remembers that little skit they did in the restroom. And Rona Barrett had interviewed Miss Elizabeth. So the opening match actually was pretty decent, but it was like one of those throw together matches. It was Coco Beware versus the model Rick Martel.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is where I think that the Tito Santana Rick Martel feud should have culminated at. This is where they should have went to the big show because they never really did a pay-per-view where it was one-on-one.
Yeah.
You know, their feud at SummerSlam the year before was a six-man tag. And then they went to Survivor Series. They duked it out in the Royal Rumble for the brief time they were in there. But, you know, this was a good match to show that Rick Martel be a singles competitor. And it was 3 minutes, 51 seconds. It wasn't long. It was a decent opening match to start it off. And Rick Martel got the victory by submission with the Boston Crab. And, you know, it was pretty good. From there, we went to the Tag Team Championship match. And this was the Colossal Connection, Andre the Giant and Haku defending the tag titles against the former two-time WWE Tag Team Champions, Demolition. This match, I don't know if you agree with this, could have been way better. Only because Andre never got in the ring.
Yeah, he never got tagged in. He got in the ring to interfere.
He got in the ring to interfere, but he was never officially tagged in. And I don't know if it was because he wasn't medically cleared or it was just he was really deteriorating because 1990 was really his downward spiral year. It was over.
It was his health. He couldn't really move.
I think at one point later that year in Japan, he was even voted either the worst wrestler of 1990 or involved in the worst tag team of
Jesus.
1990. I mean, in Japan, that just tells you how bad this icon of the business, how just fast it went down for him. But Haku, for the most part, was in the ring with Demolition. It was pretty much a 2-on-1 handicap match. Like you said, Andre got in there, interfered from time to time. But ultimately, it was Demolition demolishing Haku and becoming three-time tag team champions.
Yep, three-peat. Which is a record back then.
Yes, a record that stood for quite a few years because it wasn't until the mid-90s, late 90s that somebody had beaten that. But they still held the record for the longest reign as tag team champions. Right. It was funny on the afterwards of the match, Bobby Heenan was chastising Andre about the loss, and because if you remember, towards the end, it was Andre got kicked by Haku when he was holding Smash.
Yeah. The crescent kick, yeah.
And he kept telling him, he hit me, and the microphone actually picked up the Heenan cursing him out. I'm the effing boss. You hear me? And then he slapped Andre, and I'm sorry, but that's just something you don't do. And Andre got a hold of him and smacked him around. Haku tried to get involved, and Andre took him out. And if you remember at WrestleMania 6, they had the carts.
Yeah,
they took him to the ring because it was such a long rampway, like they did at WrestleMania 3. And Andre took them both out. He said, and Jesse Ventura was like, can you blame him? Andre wants to ride alone. And the fans actually gave him a standing ovation. And right. I thought that was nice considering technically this was his final send-off.
Yeah, that was it. That was his
last match in WWE. I mean, he made a couple of appearances here and there, but ultimately, I mean, his wrestling career in WWE was over. And the fans gave him a nice standing ovation, and you know, it was a nice to see that considering the match, you know, could have been better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and that actually was not even long. It was a 9-minute, 30-second match. So from there now, we go to another behemoth. You got the Mighty Hercules versus Earthquake. And I don't know if Earthquake was still running the undefeated streak at this time. He might have been.
I think he was. I think he was at that point.
I know they were using the moniker the Canadian Earthquake when he first started.
Yeah,
I mean,
but then
I'm glad they got rid of that because it made no sense. This match was actually 4 minutes 52 seconds. Hercules held his own because I remember at one point he did bust Earthquake's nose open because Hercules had a mean right punch. And now anybody that got in the ring back in the early part with Earthquake, if he put his finishing move on you, if he sat on you, you weren't getting up.
Yeah, no, that was it.
The whole thing where the stretcher would come out.
Tremors,
Hercules was actually the only guy that got up. After Earthquake did it, and the match was over, Earthquake beat Hercules. Hercules was actually to get up, be able to stand up on his own, which was pretty impressive. But it wasn't a bad match. Again, it was one of those throw-togethers that there was really no heat between them.
Yeah, it was just a mid-card. Just
throw
the card up.
You guys go out there, have a good match. Our next match wasn't. It was actually a rivalry, but the ending kind of had me in question. It was Brutus the Barber Beefcake and the undefeated Mr. Perfect. And for whatever reason, coming off the feud with Hulk Hogan, and he gets thrown into this match in mid-card with Beefcake, Brutus the Barber Beefcake actually beats him.
Yeah.
And it was in 7 minutes, 48 seconds. I didn't understand that because you just gave this guy this big push, and now you've given him a WrestleMania loss.
Right. And he's about to win the IC title in the tournament.
Yeah, coming up after WrestleMania 6.
So why would you have him lose to Brutus the Barber Beefcake?
Exactly. And then it didn't make any sense. Well, we've also talked about that maybe at some point Perfect should have had the belt or been a former champion by this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, it didn't make any sense to me that Brutus got over on him. But it is what it is. Their feud culminated at SummerSlam, or was supposed to culminate at SummerSlam. Unfortunately, Brutus got into the boating accident, and then the Texas Tornado took over that feud. So from there, we went to a kind of a knockdown, drag-out affair, and it was Roddy Piper versus Bad News Brown.
Yeah.
Hot Rod and the Hot Scott, if you remember.
Yeah,
he had painted half of his body.
That I didn't understand. I was like,
I didn't either.
What the? I'm like, that would never fly today. Like,
no,
that would never. No. And I mean, I like both guys, and it was a good feud, but I don't understand the pain. I think in the match, I could have sworn I heard Bad News get picked up on the mic saying, "You want to be black," while he had him in a headlock or something like that. I'm like, what are they doing? I don't know. I didn't get that.
This wasn't even a wrestling match. I honestly didn't. I don't think we saw one wrestling hold at all. It was mainly just fisticuffs, rumbling around, eye pokes, and then you remember he brought out the glove out of his trunks, and Ventura kept swearing that it was laced with lead because it looked like the Michael Jackson glove. And every time he's hitting Bad News, he's just going all over the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And the referee, I think, was Joey Morella, and he was allowing it. So, I mean, this feud had started at the Royal Rumble. They one got eliminated by the other, and the other one eliminates him on the outside, and they're just fighting down the rampway. So this kind of started there. This ended just like the match started and sounded like. It was a double count out.
Yeah.
Because they fought probably out of the Sky Dome all over Toronto. It was a 6-minute, 48-second bout, and right after this, it was over. There was no other match because Bad News had gone into a feud from there on, right in his final feud before he left with Jake the Snake Roberts. Yep. So they started it. It just there was no rhyme and reason why it didn't finish. So, but it was a good brawl anyway. I like it.
Yeah.
But again, the Hot Rod, Hot Scott thing, that's Piper for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, he should have painted himself half blue, if anything. Like,
you just paint yourself anything, but if you're gonna paint it, explain why you did it.
Yeah, that was weird.
So from there, we've got the Canadian boys themselves. You got the Hart Foundation taking on the Bolsheviks. Now we've talked about this, and they're in their home country.
Yep.
You're not getting a tag title match. you got a decent tag team, but why, oh, why was it just 19-second
Squash,
match?
a squash
Squashed
match.
it. They're singing the Russian national anthem. Jim the Anvil Neidhart, everybody remembers, is going nuts in the corner. Brett's trying to control him. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore, and he attacks Nikolai Volkov and Boris Zukov. They put the heart attack. I mean, these guys still had their jackets on when Brett pinned them. And I mean, it was good. It was a good momentum match for the Hart Foundation because right after that, they challenged Demolition for the tag team titles. But to me, it just could have been a little longer. The Bolsheviks, they just showed like they had nothing.
Yeah, it didn't.
I mean, and shortly after that, they had broken up anyway.
Yeah.
Because then Nikolai had turned the fan favorite and went with Jim Duggan, and then they just did nothing with Boris Zukov. So from there, now we've got Tito Santana and his WrestleMania losing streak. You know, Undertaker's got his winning streak at WrestleMania. Tito's got his losing streak against the Barbarian. Now, by this point, the Powers of Pain are done. Warlord is being managed by Slick, and the Barbarian is part of the Heenan family now. And I always thought they put Tito Santana up against the biggest guys they could find. I mean, it was just, is it me or did you see that anytime you saw a pay-per-view? It's like Tito versus everybody that's bigger than him.
Yeah, I mean, you knew he was going to lose, basically.
Yeah, because I mean, it was set up like that because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at SummerSlam that year, he fought the Warlord, I believe, or even somebody as bigger. I got to look that up. But this match was 4 minutes, 33 seconds. Tito tried. I mean, he hit the flying forearm. It didn't work. The Barbarian goes off the top rope with that vicious clothesline of his. I mean, that guy was just full of power. And the Barbarian beats Tito. And sorry, Tito, that's another WrestleMania loss for you. I mean, it's just, we were pulling for you, man. But not against the Barbarian.
No, it wasn't going to happen.
So the next match after that, no. The next match after that was one of my favorites because it was one of the best feuds they gave this man. The mixed tag match, okay. It was Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire versus the Macho King Randy Savage and, well, you want to call her Queen Sherry, Sensational Sherry, Scary Sherry. I don't care what you call her. Just don't, That match was actually good because, you remember Dusty Rhodes said we got the crown jewel. And that's when Miss Elizabeth returned.
Right.
And I thought that was cool because, we hadn't seen her really since, WrestleMania 5.
Yeah, we hadn't
Mega
seen
Powers Explodes.
Mm-hmm.
So the match was pretty decent. It was 7 minutes, 52 seconds. The men tagged, when the men were tagged in, they fought, Dusty fought Savage, Sapphire fought Sherry. Sapphire got involved a few times. And so I loved how Dusty kept getting involved with Sherry. But if you remember, Elizabeth got involved when she grabbed Sherry by the hair, pushed her in. Sapphire got the roll-up win, and Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire beat Savage and Sherry. I would have rather it have come down to Dusty and Savage.
Yeah.
Because and the feud obviously wasn't over there, but that was one of the best feuds they gave Dusty Rhodes when he arrived in WWE.
Yeah, definitely.
And it wasn't a bad match for Savage coming off the previous WrestleMania being a championship match. It wasn't totally down the card, and you had a former NWA champion that you were in the ring with, so it wasn't bad. From there, we've got the Rockers taking on the Orient Express, the Sato and Tanaka Orient Express,
that version,
which they were the better version, in my opinion. And of course, managed by Mr. Fuji, so you got shenanigans at ringside. Yeah. Now, you talk about WrestleMania losing streaks. Here's another team now they lost at WrestleMania 5. And unfortunately here, the match was 7 minutes, 30 seconds. They lose to the Orient Express here. Now, it wasn't clean because if you remember, the salt got thrown in Jannetty's eyes.
Yeah.
And Fuji had the cane. And Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty get distracted by it. The Orient Express pick up the win. This is another unfortunate because the Rockers had such momentum going into it. And, I mean, if you're trying to help the Orient Express along on a team that just came in, I can understand that. But this is now the second straight WrestleMania that the Rockers have gotten a loss in. And I just thought this one maybe they would do.
Yeah, I don't understand the booking. At least the match was somewhat entertaining with the spots, Like all the guys could fly around the ring, so.
Yeah, and
Got some
then
good spots, you know.
and anytime you put the Rockers in the ring, the tag team
Yeah.
specialists, you got regardless of who they're facing, you're going to get a good show.
Right. Yeah. So.
So from there now we go to Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Dino Bravo. Now these guys, I can understand the match of Mania because Duggan and Bravo just feuded for years.
Yeah.
I mean, ever say if you're anti-American or anything to that nature, Duggan's going to come at you. And it was 4 minutes 15 seconds, and Jim Duggan defeated Dino Bravo, even with Earthquake at ringside. So I thought that was a good match for Duggan to pick up. And Bravo, he was talented in the ring, mic skills, but these two would give you a brawl match, but you'd see some wrestling.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
So
it's another filler. It's kind of like another filler match. Those
yeah,
guys,
but at least this one made sense on the card.
Yeah.
Because there was heat between them.
Right.
So now we've got the unsanctioned defend it when I want to $1 million championship match. Now, if everybody remembers the backstory on this one between the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and Jake the Snake Roberts, remember Jake had stolen the $1 million belt,
right?
And he had hired DiBiase hired the Big Boss Man to get it back for him,
mm-hmm.
And that's where they had started turning Boss Man fan favorite because DiBiase was under the assumption I own you, you work for me, and that's where that whole thing had escalated from. But do you remember the promo, the interview that Jake gave right before the match? I mean, that was one of the best ones he ever did, especially when he gave the quote when he said, "The money you're going to grovel for is your very own."
Yeah, Jake was always good on Jake cutting promos. Definitely, he was always one of the
especially
best.
That voice. He had it. He had that. Imagine if he could just get everything else under control. What kind of champion he could have been.
It's a shame.
Yeah, because the mic skills to him was definitely one of his it was definitely a plus. The match ran 11 minutes 50 seconds. Unfortunately, nobody saw Jake the Snake Roberts become the $1 million champion. Ted DiBiase did keep the belt. However, the most entertaining part of it was after the match when DiBiase finally got DDT'd by Jake.
Yeah,
you got all the money in the ring. So what does he do? Now you remember before that, Virgil had grabbed the belt and ran to the back before Jake could get a hold of it again. So all the money that DiBiase had in his hand, because he always used to come down with the roll of hundreds, he starts giving it out to the fans. 100 here, 100 there. He even gave 100 to Mary Tyler Moore. And like Jesse Ventura said, like she needs $100.
Yeah. Just true.
But it was good. The fans got a kick out of it. It was a great ending. Unfortunately, didn't go everybody's way. Jake gets the loss. DiBiase keeps his belt. And I think the feud at that point had dwindled down because then for a brief moment it was DiBiase and Bossman at this point.
Yeah.
So nobody forget Ted DiBiase here for a minute because he hasn't left ringside. Reason why, our next match was the Twin Towers split up. This was the Big Boss Man versus Akeem. And the Big Boss Man was another guy that the fans took a while to warm up to. Because even when he was coming down to the ring, the ovation wasn't really there.
Right.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, yeah.
So as he gets to ringside, DiBiase's still there, and he attacks Boss Man before the match. Unfortunately, that doesn't help Akeem because Big Boss Man puts him in his finisher and beats him in 1 minute 49 seconds.
Yeah.
The feud was pretty much one and done at that point with the Twin Towers splitting up there because I think shortly after that Akeem was gone.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He went back to the one-man gang gimmick in WCW.
WCW, yeah.
So, which is a shame because, again, I didn't agree with the Akeem gimmick. I liked the one-man gang. I thought he was a good wrestler for a big guy. But, putting him with Akeem, okay. But, yeah, this was a one-and-done feud for Boss Man, and he was off being a fan favorite from there. Our next match was another throw together, which I guess it was because he had returned to the WWE at this point. It was Superfly Jimmy Snuka versus Ravishing Rick Rude.
Yep. Which I didn't understand why they would put. They were trying to rebuild Snuka at that point. Snuka wasn't really the same. So they put him in with Rude. I didn't get it.
He still wasn't the same after the match.
Yeah,
because Rude beats him in 3 minutes 59 seconds.
Right, I don't understand why Rude was even.
It's a squash match for Rude, who came off his second straight WrestleMania victory, and he's being primed to face Warrior, or I'll get to that in a minute, but he's primed to be the WWE number one contender at SummerSlam, which to me he should have been the number one contender
Right.
anyway
Right.
by this point, or at least be a champion. I just think somebody a bit more caliber could have given him a bigger run in the ring. But anyway, this leads us to our ultimate challenge,
That's right.
title for title. The WWE Championship and the Intercontinental Championship on the line. Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. You can't get any bigger than this.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantasy matchup, babyface versus babyface, which didn't happen.
Very unheard of back then.
Yeah, very, very rare. The build was great. The way they built it up through the Royal Rumble when they would have, they were in the ring at the same time, the two of them, and it was just them for a brief time, and they had the stare down, and the crowd went crazy. Then they clotheslined each other. Then
Nobody moves.
Right. Then leading into it, on the main event and everything, them crossing paths on main event, they had teamed up, and then they
constantly running in to help each other, and then accidentally hitting each other. And then it didn't make any sense. And then I remember they had it was a tag team match. It was Hogan and Warrior.
Perfect and Genius. It was
that's what it was.
Yeah. Saturday Night's Main Event. Yeah.
Yeah, and again they had some issues in the ring there. It's like we're friends, but we can't get along.
Yeah.
Type thing, and it was like you said, it was a great build up from January to April for this match. Nobody, honestly, I didn't expect it.
No.
But when I saw the Rumble and I see these two, I'm like, what if? And sure enough, shortly after the Rumble, I mean, this match was signed early.
Yeah, and the thing about this was that you didn't know who was going to win, really. People didn't really know. You went in there. Both these guys are unstoppable. You don't know who's going to win. You have the title for title thing, even though, what ends up happening is Ultimate Warrior ultimately, no pun intended, has to relinquish the IC title because you couldn't have both belts.
You can't be both belts.
But the concept of it was cool. You hardly ever saw a champion versus champion, especially both titles on the line.
Yes.
For the match, it was a great idea. It was a great build. Both guys were super over. Warrior popularity was.
I mean, these guys had a huge winning streak going into this. They were the two hottest wrestlers going in from 89 to 90.
Nobody ever beat them clean, too.
No,
nobody ever beat them clean. So it was like one of those things where, what are we going to see here? They had the contract signing was pretty cool.
Yes.
And I miss those contract signings. That always added to it for me.
I mean, they do it now, but it's just like it's
not the same. It's
so cliche. It's just okay that you signed it. All right, we're done. But it only works with a big match like this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It should be rare, special, and I like the fact that they had it in an office and not in the ring.
Yeah, just like what they did Hogan and Andre.
Yeah. And the two promos that both of them cut before the match are to me probably two of the greatest promos they've ever cut. When Hogan tells him about, I can save you and the Warriors. Like, once he wins, I can save you guys. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you want to live forever? And then he talks about getting him out of the darkness and bringing him into the light. And then the Warrior talks about Hogan. And, oh, man. It's great stuff, man. Great stuff.
What was it? The promo the interview he cut at WrestleMania 6. What did Warrior say his name like 25 times? Yeah. And it didn't even sound like he was saying Hulk Hogan. It was like Hulk Hogan or whatever.
I think that was before. It wasn't the actual
WrestleMania because I thought it was that night that he.
I think it was on the main event. I know what you're talking about. He had that promo, and he also had the promo where he's talking about taking the plane to Toronto, and he's gonna put the plane into a nosedive. He's gonna rip open the door.
And And Hogan's like, we're gonna blow the roof off of Skydome, and well, they were right because oh my God, 67,000 people went nuts. You remember at one point when Hogan was coming down, they weren't. Monsoon and Ventura didn't even try to talk.
No,
during this, they were like, we're just gonna watch.
Yeah.
And what was funny,
Hogan is a god in Canada.
Hogan was a god everywhere.
But Canada was different, and we saw that years later in 2002.
Yes. Oh yeah, yes, true, definitely. So. But did you notice? I mean, they said that the crowd sidewise was 50-50. I thought I felt a little bit of a lean to the Warrior when he came out. Not when his music first hit, but when he hit the arena and
when
was
he hit,
running.
yeah, when he was running. When the music first hit, not so much. I thought Hogan got the bigger pop.
I thought it was
When
Warrior, to be honest.
I don't know. It was close, man.
It was hard to tell,
Yeah, it
but
was hard. It was really hard. And you don't know what they might have done with the editing for the
yes, it's
crowd.
true.
Who knows? But they either way, they were both over.
Oh God, yeah.
Now, and the match was actually really good. I was surprised because Hogan is not a great worker and Warrior is not a great worker. But they had a great match and they were able to tell a great story. The only problem I had is the egomaniac Hogan. And back then,
Yes.
when I was a kid, I didn't have a problem with this.
No,
It's only
none of us
right.
had a problem with it till
It's
now.
it's only watching it as you get older.
Yeah,
Because
as a kid, we thought it was awesome.
right, because I was a Hulkamaniac, but I love the Warrior.
Yeah.
So I wasn't real. I really was very, very, very torn in that match. I was very torn. But watching it now, and you see the Hulk Hogan, how he had to basically win the match when the referee was knocked out.
Mhm.
So you can always say, well, Hogan had him beat in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
But the referee was out cold, and then the Warrior did the same thing, but still Hogan got it first. So then you want to take over the ending of the match with
Well, when you remember Hogan goes to hit the leg drop, Warrior gets out of the way.
But before that, maybe he hulked up.
Oh yeah, well yeah, didn't he? He did
He got gorilla press
slam.
and Warrior. Actually, I want to go back a little bit. Let me go back a little bit. Warrior, they wanted him. I think I said this in another video. They wanted him to go out in the cart, and he said no way, because I guess Hogan was the only one that was going to walk down. Everyone else was going through carts. They wanted Warrior to get into the cart.
Yeah, those are the only two guys that walked down.
And the thing was, the Sky Dome was actually pretty. It's a pretty long runway.
Yes.
Or walk or whatever you want to. I say runway because Warrior runs down the damn thing.
Yeah.
But they wanted him to do it. He said absolutely not. So he's about to go out, or a little bit before, and Vince comes out to try to talk to him. And Vince, he didn't even look at him. He just says, "Vince, I'm running to the ring." And then Vince says, "You heard him, boys," and he skyrocketed to the ring, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Because he stayed in character. But the thing was, he gorilla presses him, and Warrior explained in an interview I saw with him that he was so tired that he could barely get Hogan up. So when you look at him,
it was 24 minutes 51 seconds
right,
match.
Right.
I mean,
Warrior
it was intense.
He was used to squash matches. So when you watch it again, Warrior barely gets him up and then drops him, does the splash, and then you take over.
And then we get the usual Hulkamania hulking up,
which I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe
the
it.
Hulk, because we never saw anybody kick out of Warrior's finisher. Yeah. He's hulking up. The Warrior's even looking at him like, "Oh my God, what do I got to do? Tranquilize the dart? What is this?" They go through that thing. Hogan does his whole thing. He goes for the leg drop, his famous leg drop. He misses.
Yeah.
Now, as a Hulkamaniac fan back then, we never saw this. He misses. He's holding his leg. Warrior gets up, does his body splash. Now, this is the only thing now I look at I disagree with. Hogan got pinned. Warrior beats him. But at 2 and 99/100ths, he starts the process to kick out. So the 3 already goes down.
Yeah.
But he attempts to still kick out of it.
Yeah.
And he couldn't just lay there clean.
No, but I mean, I kind of get it, though. He's still trying to kind of protect himself. That Warrior beat him, but just barely beat him.
Yeah.
So I don't have so much, but then again, it's Hogan and his politics. So knowing what we know about Hogan now,
I mean, to be honest, I'm surprised that the match went the way it did, but I think it was only because Hogan was going to film something. Because if you remember, shortly after WrestleMania, he had the feud with Earthquake, where Earthquake sat on him on the Brother Love show. And that kept him out for a few months till SummerSlam. So I think he was working on a project.
Well, the thing was, Vince was pushing him. Vince was telling him, "Look, it's time to transition. We got to transition to a new champion." Hulkamania already had been about 6 years, I think, almost 6 years at that point.
Six straight WrestleMania main events.
So they were trying to transition. So keep things fresh. So I think that was it. If it was up to him, he wouldn't have put Warrior over.
I believe he would have been the champion forever.
Yeah, and he even says so much in interviews. He's like, "Oh, I tried to tell him that he wasn't the guy." And Hogan makes the claim that if you watch WrestleMania, I mean, we can't see this because it's edited, but he says that the crowd was watching him leave the arena, they weren't paying attention to Warrior in the ring. That's not true.
I think
Because,
some people might have been watching him
yeah,
leave,
of
but
course, that's natural.
I think everybody was focused on Warrior, the fireworks,
When he
and
went
him holding
crazy,
both titles.
yeah, when he won, the crowd exploded. They went crazy when Warrior won.
Yes.
And of course Hogan again, egomaniac, he had to give
No,
Warrior.
I actually like that.
Well,
That was come on. That was
no,
like the
I
passing
know.
of the torch.
No, it was, but I'm just saying, like
I mean,
Hogan.
he's crying and he's holding his belt.
Right, right,
Like, I
right,
don't want to
right.
give my toy away.
When they hugged,
But
like it was cool though. It
it
was
was
cool. Yeah.
because he acknowledged him as champion. He gave him the title
Hmm.
and showed it and told him there's no animosity here.
Yeah.
You beat me. You got my respect. Here's your title. And I actually I like that because especially you had to do that with two baby faces in the ring again back then, unheard of.
Right, right. That's true. Yeah,
If
yeah.
Hogan just leaves clean, just doesn't do anything, then you got to question it. Is he going to try to retaliate? Is he going
Right,
to,
right.
whatever? I actually like that from him. It showed the respect that he had for the man. Because honestly, if you think about it, if he didn't really respect the Warrior, do you really think he'd have done it? Even if Vince told him?
I don't know. I don't know. With Hogan, I don't. You never know with
I mean,
Hogan.
Hogan loses to Andre, you don't see him giving him a belt. Well, obviously he wasn't going to.
Well, yeah, but so I mean, that was in terms of main events, that was like the biggest match next to Andre at that, especially by that point.
That's one and two on the
Yeah,
top
yeah,
title matches of WrestleMania.
yeah, yeah. Champion versus champion, two baby faces, two and it took them. Think about it. It took them 6 years to do a baby face versus a baby face again,
Yep.
which was Shawn and Brett.
Yes.
So it took them a while to do that again. But all overall, I think it was a good WrestleMania. I don't think it was great. You
It
know,
was.
you thought it was a great WrestleMania
No,
from
there was a lot like
top to bottom. I mean, match for match.
the I mean the tag title match, like I said, could have been better. You had the $1 million championship, which because the Intercontinental title wasn't technically, I mean, it really wasn't being defended. I mean, even though it was up in the match, they were able to get a third title match in there because the lack of championships they had that back then as compared to now, so they were able to get a third title match in there. I mean, the show was good. I wouldn't say it was the best of all time, no,
All right.
but it was definitely good for what they put together leading up the card to that ultimate main event. No
Yeah, I
pun
mean,
intended.
but the main event is what really,
And
you
also
know.
considering that this is the first time they've gone out of the country to do the WrestleMania. I mean, that was huge. And I mean, just look at the capacity crowd you had for this main event, almost
Yeah, no, it was
68,000
a huge,
people.
it was a huge match. It was a huge
So, but
match.
overall, I liked it.
Yeah, no, it wasn't bad. I'm just saying it wasn't one of. If you look at the total card, it's just the main
No,
event
if you're
was so
ranking
big.
WrestleManias, then
Right,
no,
right,
it's not in
right.
the top
But the
five.
main event was so big, it kind of overwhelms,
Yes,
puts it over.
definitely.
So, all right, that's our review for WrestleMania 6. You guys let us know what you think about, the main event and the card, and we appreciate all your comments.
Yes.
We'll be going into WrestleMania 7 and the next one, and from there, we're going through this WrestleMania gauntlet. So, you guys make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.